with a master's in social work. And so my focus is mental health.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hi, so my name is Benjamin McAfee. I am representing the class of 2007. After Georgetown, I took 3 years and I worked in different fields of public health, one related to HIV and other related to the Affordable Care Act, and then also mental health as a whole. I started my own website called mycampushealth.com that focuses on the intersection of college students and mental health.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Mims from the cohort class of 2003. Yes, we're here tonight. I received my bachelor's in political science from Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi. I received my master's in public health from the University of Southern Mississippi. And my focus area was health policy and administration. And so I have worked with nonprofits, including the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the national office, in working with in various areas of mental health, including nonprofits in DC, and then also volunteering my time for the NAMI Information Helpline. So I have had a mass amount of experience in the mental health field.
Well, thank you all for sharing. We're going to jump right in, and you've kind of touched on it a little bit already in terms of your role as it relates to mental health, but can you share, and we'll start with Jessica, can you share why this topic of mental health is important to you, and share your personal story as you feel comfortable?
Sure, definitely. Well, I've been working with teens, I think, ever since I can remember, when I was like back in college, and I think I started noticing or becoming more aware about what mental health really meant in my community. Coming from the Latino community, we don't really talk about mental health, and it was one of the things that I think for me, kind of like every time I would work with families or teens, it would come up. And then it was something that I didn't know how to address because I was really unfamiliar with it, just because my family never really talked about it. I mean, obviously I knew that there was like depression within my family, but it was never like talked about or treated. So then as I got older, my last job was working with teens, and I definitely saw that a lot, coming up in conversations with families and kids. And then I knew that I had to do something about it. I figured, like I'm referring to students and families to like mental health therapists, and not that we're bilingual or bicultural or could really understand what was going on with them. So I figured like I need to go back to school. I need to kind of like, like my frustrations were coming a little too strong, I think. So I was like, if I want to, for my community to learn more about mental health and kind of find out what it's all about, I need to go back to school and find out myself and then be able to help the community out. So I think that's why I decided to kind of like take on the mental health, like learn more about it. And then like as I learn more about it, like actually really begin to embrace it and kind of like figure out like, oh man, maybe while I was going through college, I was going through some of the stuff that a lot of the people that I not worked with were going through at that time, but because in my community it was never really talked about, I didn't have anyone to kind of like relate to or talk about. Because again, if you seek mental health help, sometimes if you're seen as like it's seen as a negative thing. So I just kind of wanted to break down the stigmas, and now I work with the community and I love it. I'm able to educate a lot of the families, a lot of the kids that I work with about what mental health is and that it is okay to ask for help. So yeah, that's how I became involved in it. I just like got frustrated with the system, and I wanted to serve my community to be able to provide those services in Spanish and kind of like teach as well as possible. That's how I became involved.
Thank you. Ben?
Hello. Yeah, so I got interested in mental health because I myself am a consumer, and in this field, when you say you're a consumer, that means that you are a person who has or is living with a certain condition. So I was diagnosed the summer after my freshman year with bipolar disorder, and that really changed my perspective in life. And I definitely had certain experiences in college that were very challenging. One in particular was when I had a project, I had a presentation, and I had given myself 2 or 3 days to prepare for it, and I was taking this medication that gave me sleeping problems, and then my psychiatrist added another medication, and I slept for over 28 hours, and that was sort of indicative of like my experience that I had at Georgetown. So in many ways, when it comes to mental health, I live mental health on the daily. I'm not defined by my disorder, but it's something that I definitely live, and it's something that I'm very passionate about, and talking about mental health issues, hoping to affect change. And I forgot to say that next year I'll be attending Emory in public health, focusing on mental health. So I'm also excited about that.
Thank you, Ben. Amanda?
Yeah, so I would say a major reason I am so passionate about this is because of my mother and myself. I have experienced some mental health challenges throughout my life, depression. In 2007, my mother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I had experienced her ups and downs all through my life, but now at that time we finally put a name to it. And so from that moment on, I vowed to learn as much as I can and to break down the stigmas and stereotypes. Being an African American woman and being in our community, we are a religious people. However, I want people to realize you can't just pray bipolar disorder away. You can't just pray schizophrenia away. It's a part of the wellness system, but we have to open our hearts and open our minds. Just as the pancreas is important to diabetes and other disorders and diseases, the brain and the biochemistry of us is important to mental health and mental wellness. And so I have taken it on to be a person who is vocal and who defies the odds and defies the stereotypes. As Ben stated, it doesn't define us. My mother is not bipolar. She is a person who lives with bipolar disorder. So we have to watch our language and as I said, open our minds and open our hearts.
Thank you, Amanda. And some of the stuff you all touched on, we're definitely going to come back to. But before we get too in depth with the conversation, I wanted to just pose the question: how do you define mental health and wellness? Because oftentimes, this is a term that we hear, and we can kind of, assume what it means. But just to make sure that we're all operating under the same definition, how would you all define the term mental health and wellness?
I would say it's holistic. As I stated earlier, it's our biochemistry. It's the thing that makes up our brain, which is an organ. A lot of people don't realize or want to realize that the brain is a part of the system that makes us up, for lack of a better way of saying it. But it's holistic, from our spiritual to our finances, to how we're fulfilled in our life and our purpose. All of this is interconnected into our mental health and into our wellness. And from the foods we eat, exercising, our relationships, everything is interconnected. And a lot of times people may say, "Oh, I have the blues, I'm down." That's a part of life. However, it's important for us to realize when those blues are lasting weeks and months on end and you just don't feel right. So it's a matter of being in tune with your body and trying to live as healthy and holistic as possible.
Did
Yeah,
anyone want to
I
add to that?
really, yes, I really like what Amanda said. It's sort of like when I worked in Mental Health America, they would always say that there's no health without mental health. And it's, really interesting that many people don't see it as analogous to physical health